Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive, honestly mind-bending philosophical concept. We're talking about something that challenges literally everything we think we know about cause and effect, the end of life, and the invisible forces shaping our reality. So if you've ever found yourself wondering about the ultimate hidden consequences of your daily actions, well, you're definitely in the right place.
Let's kick things off with a big question. When exactly is Judgment Day? According to the fascinating philosophy we're analyzing today, our universally understood concept of a singular final judgment day, a specific date circled on the cosmic calendar where all of humanity is suddenly called up to account, is actually a huge misconception. It's basically a fundamental misunderstanding of how the universe even operates.
Think about it. We typically look at the finish line, death, and assume, okay, that's where the race is judged. We get so hyper-focused on the final outcome that we completely ignore the actual process leading up to it. But this text, it flips that entire idea on its head. It argues that judgment isn't some final event just waiting for you after you die. Nope, it is immediate. It's happening everywhere, and it is happening all the time.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This continuous judgment isn't being handed down by gods, Buddhas, or celestial beings sitting on clouds. Instead, it's executed by something the text defines as the Tao. So what is that exactly? Well, the Tao is described as the spiritual law that sustains the orderly operation of the entire universe and the cycle of life itself. It's not a person with a gavel, it's a living, breathing mechanism built right into the very fabric of existence. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at a bit of a paradox from the source material. Consider this idea. Tao is the greatest creator, but the greatest creator is not Tao. I mean, it sounds a lot like a riddle at first glance, right? How in the world can A equal B, but B doesn't equal A? To unpack that, let's think about a nation. A country's laws clearly represent that country, sure, but those laws aren't the physical landmass itself, are they? Or think about how a philosopher's thoughts represent them, but those thoughts aren't the actual physical human being. In the same way, the text explains that the Tao represents the greatest creator's will. But unlike human laws written on dead paper, the Tao is an active, spiritual, living mechanism rather than just dead dogma.
Okay, so how exactly does this continuous living judgment execute its rewards and punishments in our actual physical reality? This brings us to a really crucial concept we can call the illusion of the sudden event. We all tend to think things just happen out of nowhere, but nature, and by extension the Tao, simply do not work that way.
Let's ground this with an everyday example. Just picture a kitchen. Does a thick, nasty layer of grease just magically appear on the walls all at once? Of course not. It starts out totally clean, goes through a month of routine frying and cooking, and eventually, by day 100, you've got that thick layer of grime. Every single time a pan sizzles, a tiny, almost imperceptible judgment on the wall's cleanliness is rendered.
It's the exact same thing with a smoker's teeth. They don't turn dark after one single cigarette on day one. That darkening isn't some arbitrary punishment handed down at the end of a decade. It is the inescapable, continuous result of repeated minor actions, just accumulating over time. Every single cigarette leaves its mark. The judgment is instantaneous, even if the visible result takes years to fully manifest. The text actually poses a highly logical, almost funny question to illustrate this. It asks, if you feel completely full after eating 9 steamed buns, were the first 8 buns just wasted? Well, obviously not. You couldn't possibly reach the satisfaction of that 9th bun without the cumulative effect of the first 8. Every single bun played a necessary part in the final result. And this really challenges us to look at larger life events and ask ourselves, is a sudden tragedy truly sudden? Like when someone suffers a sudden heart attack, is it just one single day of bad health? When a massive dust storm hits, is it because someone pulled up a few blades of grass that morning? Or even a devastating earthquake, is it just a single random tectonic shift? No way. The text argues these aren't singular events at all. They are the catastrophic accumulation of countless unseen, unaddressed factors. So the central argument here is that the law of cause and effect is absolutely foolproof. Without the accumulation of quantity, there can be no qualitative transformation. It's like an equation. No personal effort, you get no happy life. No deep thought, you get no wisdom. The Tao is basically meticulously tallying every single input to produce an exact, flawless output. Which brings us to this incredibly profound realization. In an instant, there is eternity. Because the judgment of the Tao is immediate, entirely accurate, impartial, and intangible, living a life of true wisdom requires intense, laser-like focus on the present. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, powerful or powerless. Literally, all that truly matters is your very next action. So, how does this directly apply to us? Let's start with something incredibly mundane, like holding a piece of trash. Do you just casually toss it on the street, or do you take those few extra steps to find a trash bin? According to this philosophy, that tiny, private moment right there, that is a judgment. Life is constantly throwing these diverging paths at us. When you're presented with a loophole or, say, an unfair bargain, do you scheme to take advantage of it, or do you choose to live an honest life? Every single time you face this kind of choice, the Ta is recording the exact spiritual weight of your decision. And it goes way deeper than just our physical actions. It's about our emotional responses too. When you are wronged, the immediate judgment of the Tao is triggered by your reaction. Do you choose the path of continuing to retaliate and harm others, or do you choose the path of forgiveness and mercy? One path accumulates a heavy, dark burden, while the other actually lifts you up and lightens your spiritual load. And this mechanism scales perfectly. It applies all the way up to societal and even national levels. When you see a nation in crisis or a community struggling, what's your gut instinct? Do you act opportunistically, fishing in troubled waters and adding fuel to the fire? Or do you actively strive to turn the tide and help? The living law of the Tao judges both the individual and the collective based on these exact accumulating choices. This brings us to one of the most striking dilemmas presented in the text: corruption. Just imagine the Tao standing right beside you, holding a knife in one hand and this luminous gem of life in the other. If you give in to corruption, the immediate judgment is that the knife is metaphorically placed at your throat. But if you resist, that gem of life is embedded directly into your very spiritual structure. The simple truth of it all is this: plant willows and you will never ever taste apples. Human justice systems, they're flawed. We make mistakes, our wisdom is limited, and yeah, people slip through the cracks. But the operation of the Tao never errs. It is a perfect mechanism. If you sow thorns, they will inevitably obstruct your own path down the line. So, you might be wondering, if you consistently choose honesty, mercy, and effort, what is the actual payoff? Well, the ultimate reward isn't earthly riches or power. The greatest reward is the literal evolution of your life's non-material structure. It means your very spiritual essence actually upgrades to a higher level. And when you finally reach that state, your entire perspective shifts. As the text puts it, even if someone were to offer us all the treasures in the world, we would remain unmoved. Ascending to this level of understanding allows a person to act effortlessly, in total harmony with the universe. It makes the material, fleeting treasures of the world seem entirely meaningless compared to the structural integrity of your spirit. Knowing all of this, knowing that there is no final courtroom waiting for you at the end of time, but rather that every single choice is an immediate, inescapable judgment of cause and effect, I want to leave you with this one thought. The Tao is operating right now in this very second. So what will you choose to do in your exact next action?